You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Heli Skiing and Peak Performance.
The Low Pressure Podcast is sponsored by CMH Heli Skiing, where you can choose from 11 unique locations and experiences, including 4, 5, 6, and 7-day signature trips, the brand new single-day trips. You can do small groups with just you, 4 friends, and a guide, or the private and exclusive, where you get the whole place just to yourself. So find your next adventure at cmhheli.com. The Low Pressure Podcast is also sponsored by Peak Performance. There are many ways to make it down a mountain, but the best line is your line. And the adventure is there, so make it yours. Visit peakperformance.com and get the gear to unlock your freeride spirit. Hugo.
How's it going?
I'm well, man. Thanks for coming over.
Welcome.
I'm going to move this in just a touch. Right there. How's that? You good there?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah. Sounds nice. You got like one of those radio voices like you were telling me earlier. Thanks for coming over. This is your first podcast, hey?
Yeah, first ever. All new.
You've been asking, do you listen to podcasts at all?
Not really.
No, never.
I don't,
So this is a brand new experience for you?
brand new.
Fantastic. Well, I'm stoked you're here, man. I know we've kind of known each other little bits and pieces for many, many, many years. And
Yeah.
I was like, one day I'm going to get Hugo on this show. But it was kind of, as I was explaining to you not long ago, it's one of those things where I was like, all right, I know he's not a big talker. But then when I eventually just started chatting with you, like you said, one-on-one, I'm like, oh yeah, no, he talks. He's totally fine.
Yeah.
he's
I'm
totally
shy. When there's a lot of people, I just don't say anything.
good. You just observe. Do you judge?
I don't judge people
No.
unless they're skiing.
Oh yeah, true. All right, so we've got lots to talk about. So, I don't know if you would consider yourself this because you're a pretty humble guy, but you're one of the legends of like freeride and like big mountain skiing. Would you call yourself?
I don't know about that. There's so many good skiers, but I did my share.
You're one of the pioneers of like big mountain skiing. So like, you really got. So for those of you, there's a lot of people here are a little younger. They may know your name, but not necessarily know who you are and like what kind of an influence you have. I would say you're probably one of my favorite big mountain riders because you had a very specific style. Mm-hmm. Which was you didn't really have a style. It was just point and go straight and stomp.
Yeah.
We go huge. So Hugo. Do people still call you Hugo?
Huge go.
Huge go?
Yeah.
Do they still call you that?
Not really.
Not really. Just
I don't go big enough anymore.
just the handful of people that kind of know you.
Yeah.
So why don't we start at the very beginning, right? So you kind of went through your whole career. Now you're a dad, kind of fostering the athletic abilities of your kids now. Mm-hmm. But how did you get started? Where did you get started? Let's start from like way back in the day.
Yeah, I started out at Quebec, as a French Canadian. Back then it was muggle skiing or ski racing. I like both, but I always been a ski racer. And, I'm not from money. My dad was a florist. And
a florist?
He supported me, as long as he could. Mm-hmm. But racing was too expensive. And where I'm from is close to the Chic-Choc. Mm-hmm. In the Gaspé Peninsula. Yep. So
lots of touring.
Just ended up going there a lot, telemarketing. I was just the approach super long, so I just get into that, and then ski powder, and then I was sick of school, moved in Whistler, and then that's kind of how it all went.
When did you move out here?
It was 96, 97.
96, 97. Had you just finished school, or did you like leave school early, or?
I finished high school. I was signed up. I finished high school, moved here for my first summer, mm-hmm. kind of stayed around Golden, more out east.
Yep.
And wash dishes, learn English, and then, saw the potential with the mountain. And my boss was like talking about the winter. He knew I was a skier. So I was already signed up for school, went back for that season, study navigation to
in university?
It's like a navigation school.
Yeah.
It's like you go there for X amount of time.
Like for
do time in sea
for
on
water.
boats,
Okay.
and you go back to school, back and forth.
So like
you end
like a
up being
naval
captain.
naval career or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
So I did that 1 year, and then
Are you a captain?
No.
Captain Hugo?
Did 1 year and quit,
Yeah.
During that year, I was going shake shack and ski, and I was just as much a ski bum there than I was here. And did all along I knew I was going to come back here, so it kind of discouraged my motivation for school, and then, move here the season after.
Yeah, I've heard that story. I have a very similar story as well. I'm like, I'll go to school. I'm going to take a year off. Like, that was a good season. Maybe I'll go do one more.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back. Oh, that wasn't a very good season. I can't end on that. I gotta end on a good season, and then I'll go back.
Big waste of time for me.
Yeah, really. It could have been Captain Hugo. So you were in the Golden area, and then what made you come out here? Why didn't you stay out in Purcell's, out in the Kootenays, like in the interior?
At first, I tried to find a job there, and didn't really work out. I was around Lake Louise, and didn't. I wanted to check out everything. Never been to Whistler, and my friend Robin. I don't know if you know Robin Croissel.
Mm-hmm.
Very good friend of mine is from the same area as I'm from in Quebec. So came see him.
Also an established skier in his own right?
Yeah, exactly. Amazing skier, and we skied a lot together growing up. And he's a bit older than me, and he was here already for a few years. So, I started working construction with him, and found a job right away here, and that's kind of how I went.
And just stuck around, man.
Stuck around.
So that was like,
since.
that was like what, early? You said mid '90s, and then you were also spent a lot of time to Tofino, right?
Yeah, over the years, I always liked to surf, and always been going there.
Did you ever go to like New Brunswick or like?
Never surf back east.
No,
never until later in life.
So you're just like this kid from Quebec, and he's like, BC's the best.
Yeah, in the hunt for powder,
Yeah, powder and surfing. So while you're here, you kind of got your start in your career because of the IFSA. Events, which McConaughey got started. He founded in like the mid '90s, and your first events was when, like the early, like 2000 98 9 2000.
Yeah, 99 2000. Yeah, those spring event, the Extremely Canadian was putting up those spring event.
Yep.
So those were my first year as competing freeride event. And back then skinny skis, and,
right.
It was a lot different,
Right. And so like you're skiing with Robin, you're ripping around. Like, what made you enter something like this?
Back then it was that, there was no other event. There was the freestyle thing or the big mountain thing that was just starting, and me and Robin entered the event just for fun, and that's kind of
just because you guys are ripping around the hill, and you're like, we could probably do that. It's
exactly
just, right.
We were young, and
because that was right around the time when, I don't know, it's like the golden age of skiing. Everything changed, right? The new Canadian Air Force, so like park skis were being invented. People were skiing half pipes. Like, that whole jib culture was starting to grow. But paralleled at the same time was like big mountain skiing was I think, graduating from like the Scott Schmidt, Glenn Plake, that kind of stuff, to more like what we see now, like kind of big,
so different.
Exactly right. Like, who were some, like, I know like Jeff Holden was kind of doing that sort of thing around the same time.
Yeah, he started a year before me or something, and then I was right behind. Fat skis was just coming out, so
not even yet, right? Not quite even.
Yet. I was just in that transition, and for that reason, I think I got really lucky. Did well with the events, and also the fat skis were coming out, and brands were putting money. And
did you start out on the parabolic skis? Remember that?
Yeah,
exactly. It was the shaped parabolics right before they came out with like all the
exactly.
Big fat...
Brant Mull was skiing on those gray. Can't remember what they were called, but. Yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then the Bandit came out, and that's when I was doing really well at competing. And then that's when I started, signed my first contract with Rossi and won the first world tour.
Right. Okay. So we'll get a little ahead of ourselves. So I remember,
Skip step.
I remember, was it 99 where I first started realizing like, oh, we're into a new era. It was like that powder cover of Holden airing that cliff in Blackcomb.
Mm-hmm.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's like
spanky ladder there.
Yeah, he's like that big.
Yeah.
That's
With
massive.
this plank to get across.
Yeah, it is scooch across the plane. Did you ever hit it? Did you ever go check it out?
No.
You're like,
Not
no,
for me.
not so much. Because it was more of like a drop to,
To
right?
flat.
Because you had a different style, right? You're like, I'm going to keep as much speed as I can.
Yeah.
And if I can land.
Everything I looked at was always to land. I never, I had a lot of friends that showed me how to jump cliff, and find out my limit.
Right.
But I quickly realized that, if I was going to jump something, I wanted to land. It was just me. It seemed crazy to me to jump on my back and, come to a stop. I don't know. It's just the style that I had.
You developed. And I think it's also, I don't know, is it a little bit also because like A, it hurts, but B,
That's
maybe,
right.
maybe like you're a pretty big dude. Like, is it possibly because it just developed that way because you have the strength to do that? So like in the history of skiing, like there's a handful of dudes that can do what you've done. Like the first 5 years of your career, you didn't fall while filming.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
That's true. It was weird for me, after that many years, I was like, it's going to happen at some point. And then it kept, I kept just stomping everything, even free skiing for myself. Like I wouldn't crash. And then I got really confident, and that's kind of how I went, I just keep sanding harder and harder until I found the limit. But yeah, I just got lucky sometime too, and a lot of close call, but yeah.
Is that due to like strength, core strength? Like what do you attribute to like, because there's got to be something, man. Like
I was motivated.
Like you're skiing with like legends back then. Seth, right? With
Mm-hmm.
Shane, you're in a bunch of different, like name all of the different film companies in those days. You had a part in all of them at some point.
I think coming out of Quebec, rain or shine, it was pissing rain. I was on the hill. I was living in a motorhome, parking lot 4. I was on the hill 7 days a week. And I was driven, like I was going in a fissile with boots in my bag, and all my equipment. And, a lot of hiking.
Your boots in your bag?
Back then there was no kingpin or no touring equipment. It was just...
So how would you get out there?
I walk with my hiking boots, with ski boots in my backpack. And
just post-holing the whole way?
Just early season,
okay.
Going on the glacier. The glacier was huge, so
right. I'm just thinking midwinter.
10 inches of snow, and you're good. You could ski good condition early on. So I did a lot of that early season, living my motorhome. I was tree planting in summer, not working in the winter. I mean, I worked for my first few years here. I was dishwasher, didn't speak a word of English. That's kind of how the first kind of job that I did here. Working hard in summer, and then in the winter, I was just making enough money to get by.
Right.
So yeah, dishwasher at Barefoot Bistro, did that for a while. I was working in a rental shop during the day, Saturday, Sunday, 2 days a week, part-time, and then washing dishes Friday, Saturday, Sunday night kind of thing. So I could take ski breaks Saturday, Sunday, so I could ski 7 days a week. And it paid off. I was driven.
Right.
Love doing it. And for anybody that, wants to do well, that's the only secret. If you like it, you'll do well.
Just do it every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So no workout program, no squats, no really anything. Just, I guess, tree planting and building
work
houses.
Hard. Yeah. Save my money. And later on in life, I started to hit the gym and to get ready and stuff like that. But back then, it was just like, work and
just
ski.
Young, dumb, and strong, and
just ski
keen.
bum, just live to ski and try to save money and like a squirrel. And
yeah, right. Do you think that if you were coming up in this day and age, you'd be able to do the same thing?
I think so. I mean, probably a little harder with rents and stuff, but I see people live in the camper, and it's still doable.
Right, except the campers now are like $70,000 Sprinter vans
Yeah.
instead of like, $4,000 1965.
Yeah, I mean, depends what you're ready to live in, My camper back then wasn't luxury whatsoever. I was sharing parking lot 4 with tons of, lot of well-known snowboarder, Martin Galland, Pascal were my neighbor. They were living in a bus, and that's how they made it as well,
So where would you do you have like cook in the van? Like where would you go to the bathroom and you just go take a dump in the woods?
Yeah, we had a membership at the Delta for shower and a gym as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was super cheap, and so I was showering.
Is that the
there and
Hilton one
everything.
now? Is that the one
Exactly.
that
Yeah. So I had a membership there, and so is a few people from parking lot 4.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
So actually, no. I want to see if you can give us some ski bum dirtbag tips for life, like some hacks, some things. Like, so what can you think of some of the things that you did? You're like, oh, this is really helping me.
well, a couple things not to do.
Okay.
I was drying out my boots with the oven, my heater stopped working after a while.
Yeah.
And that's how we heated the place. I'm not sure it was healthy or not, but
You cranked the oven on, like the
cranked
propane
the oven on, opened the door, and I had my boots rest on the door to dry them out. And all propane heat, super humid, so don't do that.
Why? Because it would just like mess up your boot shape or
It was
whatever,
just-
or like.
It was just so humid, the ice was building up in the windows. It was one winter, I think 98, it was the biggest winter I've ever seen here. Didn't see the sun for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. I had to shovel the roof of my camper every single day. It was crazy. Awesome winter, but tough,
Because it just the whole camper loaded up with
Just very hard to dry stuff out.
hey?
Just like best way to do that to dry myself out was going the hill early and go to the lodge, and was way more comfortable
Just
there.
hang out up at
So my
Glacier
house
Creek.
was the hill.
Really? He's just like, all right, I'm gonna sleep here. This is where I keep my stuff.
Almost stay
And
there
then-
from daylight to
And then I'm out of
sundown.
there. Were you one of the guys that would like go out drinking and like try and pick up a chick and be like, I'm gonna go
No,
stay at your place
ne-
tonight?
Never been that kind of guy.
No.
But luckily, the motorhome thing didn't last too long. I did a year. I think I only did a year in parking lot, year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rented it out. Like I had a line up of people, put signs everywhere in town, and line up of people wanted to
So you
rent
became
it.
a landlord.
Landlord, my motorhome in parking lot 4, and I rented a suite in Pemberton
Oh
with
man,
my girlfriend at the time.
that's amazing. All right, because you said you had a couple things not to do. Don't put your boots in the heater in the oven. Any other ones? Dirtbag hacks. Like
by hack.
good places to get a snack. Obviously, working in a restaurant is key.
Working restaurant. That was
Were
definitely a good
you
one.
were you one of those like ketchup pack and like
Yeah, the cook-
crackers dudes?
The cook knew me, so whenever they had something they had to get rid of, they knew
Yeah,
who to give it to.
and that would be like lunch for the next day, or were you one of those
Oh,
guys that like would cruise
definitely.
around the glacier, like the lodge in the afternoon for lunch and like
No, I wasn't that.
You weren't that
dirtbag.
greasy? Yeah, no.
I was saving money. All my job in the winter was just really to not spend my money
Mm-hmm.
and have enough to last all winter and compete. That came on early on,
Right.
and that's why I was saving money for. And yeah,
It's for the competition. So you did that first one that you were
Yeah.
talking about with Robin. How'd you do in that one? Do you remember?
In the spring event, I won, and I think Robin got second or third, did super good as well. And the second year, it only happened for 2 years, those events, which is too bad because they were very friendly. Everybody was
Yeah, and
everybody was partying.
people
it
in town
wasn't
were
serious,
pumped on those, right?
no sponsors involved, no money,
Yeah.
and just having a good time and ski with your friend.
It's grassroots,
Yeah.
good times. I remember when they were over on like Diamond Bowl, and we would go sit and watch across.
Yeah,
Like good times. They're bringing them back now, which is pretty cool.
yeah.
We'll see kind of how those develop. So okay, you get a couple, and I know you're saving for money. I heard that you ended up getting Mike Varon, who is was he GLC at that time?
GLC.
So he's the GM of the GLC, which is Garibaldi Lift Company here in Whistler. I heard that he gave you money, like your first kind of quote unquote sponsor.
Yeah.
So you could travel to enter comps. Is that right?
Yeah, he helped me to go to snowbird when I did well at the Canadian Championship. The second event was snowbird, so I won a little bit of money. I think I got fifth. Didn't do that good, but just good enough that I wanted to make the second event. And then after that, I did very good. I went snowbird, got second, used that money, and used the money from GLC.
How did that come about?
What?
How did that come about? Did he just say, "Oh, I'm gonna get you set up," or
Yeah, I think
this kid's doing really well?
He helped Jeff Holden the year before.
Okay.
And then he knew I was a good skier and he wanted to help. So he's like, this year I'll help you.
And that's on behalf of the restaurant or on behalf of like Whistler Blackcomb?
I think on behalf of Whistler Blackcomb.
Yeah.
With the restaurant. He did a fundraiser by the end of the year to pay back some of that help that he gave me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started. Then I did snowbird, got second. And then I used that money. After that, I kind of used that money. He helped me early on. And then after that, I can carry on my own.
Yeah. Just
So
to get you started and winning, 3?
Then I did very good. The next one, second again. And then in Courchevel, got a good story on Courchevel. That's when I won my first world title.
Right.
And it was crazy. Like Courchevel was a crazy venue. I won that event, and that line never got repeated. They had an event there for 10 years after. I don't know if they still do, but that line still never been done again. And there was Robin did this similar line just next to me, and I went for the cliff and big run out, like exposure. Anyway, but the story is, I forgot my boots that morning.
Oh.
And to save money, I could.
Were they in the oven?
No.
Drying out.
I was in Albertville. I couldn't afford to stay in Courchevel, of course, so I was staying in Albertville at super like a cheap motel.
Yep.
And then left my boots at the hotel. Got to the parking lot in Courchevel. Realized I forgot my boots. It was either rent some boots or go back and get my boots. So I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna ski on rental boots." Went back and drove like crazy. When I came back, smoke was coming out of the car for real. In Europe, on the weekends, it's busy. So from Albertville to Courchevel is just a lineup of people.
Yeah.
And I was passing people in the switchback on the, other lane.
In a rental car.
People honking at me, smoking, tire, screaming in every corner. And managed to go up for the race. It was like a 45 minutes walk to get to the top. I see Will Burke, one of my, partner skier from Snowbird. He attempted the same line as I was doing, just exploded, hurt his knee, didn't have any other line lined up. So I kept hiking. I was sweating like crazy. I'm just about to start a little lower down on the ridge, put all my gear on, and the guy's like, no. Can't start from here. You got to start from the top, even though I saw a couple guys start from that point.
Right.
So took my gear off, kept hiking to the summit, sweating. Literally, I was like goggle almost fogged up when I started the run, out of breath. And then I had no other lines. I decided to do my line anyway. Ended up being a success, won the event, but it was a crazy story.
Oh, man. I wonder if see stuff like that for some people, they'd be like so frazzled. They'd be like, I'm
not going to do a line.
Like, just so in their head that they just don't do well. Whereas maybe you just got warm.
You warmed up and ready to go. Didn't have to think much. I was just like, okay, that's
amazing. And that won you the overall. Was that 2000?
That was 2000.
2000. And then you go on to win 2001. And 2002, and kind of basically establish yourself as one of the best skiers on the planet. And then, so how does that transition into your film career?
Well, all along, doing those contests, my dream was, watching Matchstick and TGR was definitely my goal to do that. And, it was hard for a French Canadian. You know, you got Ken Cratler, you got Micah Black, all those guys. They're American, and all those movie company, they're American. So to take a Canadian rider on back then, it's very hard.
Right.
So it had to come from a sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of, after my third time winning the world champ, I was like, okay, I'm done I'm done doing comps. It's either you support me filming or I'm done. I'm gonna move to somebody else.
Right.
So
who were you with at that point?
Rossignol.
It was still Rossignol then, yeah.
So yeah, they respect my decision, and they were happy for me that they understood. That
They
I
were
wanted to
smart too, because look what you did, man. All
Yeah.
right, so that's a good segue. You brought up Rossignol because I want to talk to you about the squads.
do that. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know there was like the Rossignol B squads, or the Rossignol B2s, B3s, and then there was the squad, and then there was your ski, which was different. Like the squad is the burliest ski I've ever skied on, ever. I think I got my pair in like 2007, right? I had a pair of like the B3s as they were kind of like as skis were getting developed. And then I had a pair of like Vocal Gatamas, which were like, I think 96 underfoot. They're like my first fat pair of skis, but they were so soft.
Yeah.
And then I switched to the squads. And I remember one day I was skiing kind of an off, like a double fall line, like Insanity, right before you get to the, Red Chair goes over the pony trail. And it's like kind of that double fall line.
Yeah.
I was skiing the double fall line, and I like aired off this little thing, and I landed, and I went to go throw my weight into my edge to carve back up the hill a little bit, and I pushed in the weight that I would have needed for my Gatamas that would have absorbed me and then popped me up. But I was on the squads, and they were like a solid board, so I threw all my weight in, and they just like diving boarded, launched me forward over the bars. I ended up spinning out on my back underneath the chairlift. Everyone's screaming and crying, screaming and yelling. But I was like, oh, these skis are something different.
Yeah.
Like they're so stiff. So you had a big part in developing those. But were you weren't on regular squads, which were crazy. You were on like your own special ski, weren't you?
Yeah. They gave me like
They made like 5 pairs for you only?
No, they made like 100 and give them to all their pro rider.
Right.
But not all pro rider liked them. Like they were really hard. Like in the trees, like it was tough to ski in the trees. Anything tight.
Yeah.
Everything tracked out. Like
they had like
challenging.
they had like a 38 meter turning radius or something crazy, or 50 meters.
Yeah.
So wild.
You had to get used to them to like them.
Did you have like input into like the creation of those?
When they first came out, no, but after, yes. You know, when they came with the twin tip one,
Right.
at first they had a straight tail, but when we put the twin tip, I was a big fan of that because you could ditch speed a little.
Oh,
easier.
really? Because I thought you were just the straight. That's like the straight tail guy.
No, it was
it used to
too
be-
stiff. It wanted to accelerate. You know,
Right.
with the straight tail, it's just
It's
like,
too much ski. It was
too much.
That ski made me a better skier because I had no choice.
It'll make you strong. That's key. That's
Well,
for
yeah,
sure.
or something.
Oh, it's like surfing. You know, they have special board to tow in big wave.
Right.
Those skis are the same. You go to Alaska or something big and long slope, they were good. And to stomp big airs, there's no better skis. Even nowadays, I don't think there's skis like that. You know, I don't think you can stomp that big of an air with nowadays.
With the skis these days, you don't think so?
I mean, some kids are amazing. They stomp big airs.
Yeah.
Like you look at Randy Barkred, Beck De Ross, he's been killing it for years.
Right.
He skis with something like that.
Well, exactly,
Still.
and he's kind of the same era as you, right?
Yeah.
Like he's I think 40 now. He just hung up the skis, but like this is something I was going to ask you about before. There's not a lot of skiers that ski like that now.
No.
Right? They don't have to, but it would also be cool to see a bit more. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the skiers nowadays that's kind of have like developed a little more freestyle ability and freestyle sensibilities, but you know, a little bit more style. Like it's not much just point and shoot as much anymore.
The thing is, the venue that they use, they're short. So with a ski like that, it's good in
Like
Alaska.
for the freeride venues,
it's
you mean
good
specifically?
on the massive mountain.
Right.
Like back there, it was the only venue that, you know, Rene could show good skiing.
Right.
Because every other venue is very hard for him because those skis, you can shut down quick enough to hit the other things, you know, which those other skis, you can milk the venue a lot more. You can turn in places where those big ski you wouldn't be able to shut down like that, you know.
Do you think that those 5 years that you weren't crashing had a lot to do with the skis?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those skis were making you invincible, you know.
you.
Yeah.
You got to be strong enough to be able to handle them and also have the skill to know what they're doing or what they're going to do. But
yeah, the reason I was so good with them is I was skiing them on the daily base, which a lot of people didn't like to do that, you know. It was definitely harder, and in the trees it's almost impossible to ski, but it was making you strong, and after a while skiing with them you would be able to turn them and even in the trees.
You figure it out, right? Like
figured it out.
I had a pair that I ended up breaking on Gaber Day a couple of years ago. I ended up airing onto some boulders, and I think they saved my life, to be honest with you. Like any other pair of ski would have just crumpled and I would have been, but I think I'll show them to you if I remember after. I'll show them to you where they broke. But
you look at in Macintosh.
Yep.
Volkel now. He had the same kind of skis for years. 200 long, kind of like a B squad, but Volkel.
Right.
You know, it's just a super similar.
Well, that's another guy too. It's kind of that same era, right?
Yeah.
You, Raina,
and that's why he's been doing good on the big mountain. That's why filming's good for him, because you know, with that kind of ski, you need something big, a big air, a big mountain.
Right. When did you shift over to Kesley?
That was like, can't remember which years.
2008, maybe?
2008.
Maybe.
I got hurt and then lost all my sponsor.
Really?
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Tell me about that, because like nowadays, and that's maybe the differences between the eras, right? Like back in those days, there was so much money in skiing. Like if you were a pro skier, you were a fucking rock star. You know, like it's not your personality, but you could go somewhere and be like, "Oh my God, Hugo!" You know, it's not the same as it is now. Back then, if you were a pro skier, you were like, you know, your status was skyrocketing, and the money back then was very different from the money today. And now, but also nowadays, you know, you hear all these stories of people blowing their knees out or having big accidents, but they don't get dropped as much anymore. Whereas back then, so tell me about that process. Tell me about that. How did that all happen? What was that all about?
Yeah, I mean, it was a timing thing too. With Rossignol, they had so many athletes, it's just unsustainable. They had too many. And for me, that's when Quicksilver bought Rossignol.
Right.
And all of a sudden their budget was like 1/5, you know.
Right.
And I was injured. I was probably costing them a lot of money. And then I was the first one to get cut, you know. So I was just bad time.
Did you understand it then, or were you kind of upset or bitter
I understood, but in the same time, I was ready to ride for free, you know. I proposed them like, okay, I'll ride for free. Just give me money to film with Matchstick. Matchstick at my back, you know. And he kept wanting to film with me. And they said no, you know, even riding for free.
Really?
And then I look back and I'm like, wow, they paid this guy and this guy and this guy. And they invest all those years. And I was like surprised by that decision. But hey.
Do you think maybe it's because of the style of skiing that you had was so maybe unrelatable to so many people? Like it was awesome to watch, but a lot of people are like, that's what Hugo skis. I can't do that. So let's go ski with this guy skis instead, because I can maybe relate better to that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was just a situation thing where they had to save money and they had to cut the guy that cost a lot. And maybe a little bit of that too. I don't know.
So then you moved to Kesley.
Then I moved to Kesley. And
you get a pro model like right away, didn't you?
Yeah, it was kind of a pro model. I helped with the design and it was an early rise tip and tail. And yeah, those skis were amazing. They didn't have a ski at first, so it was very hard to do the first year. It was challenging because they didn't have a good ski, and then they came up with it through that first year.
Do you think that was kind of the thing? It was like, hey, we'll hire you on. We need you to help us develop a ski. Is that kind of what it was all about?
Well, I'm not sure, but it was all new for them. It was like super fresh when they got me on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think they were just starting to produce skis, so making a big ski like I want it, probably not their priority.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a couple good skis the years after, and it was awesome.
Do you still have any?
No, I think I broke them all. Give them away.
I was talking to Griffin Post because he had a pro model ski then around the same time, maybe a little bit after you.
Probably a little bit after.
And he can't find them. He wants to find one so
really?
badly. Yeah, like he really, really needs just to have them on his wall or
Right.
something like that, right? Do you have any that you keep just to look at?
No, I don't have one single pair of Kessler's in my place.
No, hey. You just sold them all to Toby?
Oh, you give them for a paint job. That's right. He painted my house, and I traded him for skis.
Yeah, he was telling me about that. He skied them for a couple. You think you gave him like 2 pairs or something like that?
Yeah.
He was skiing them
He
for
was
years.
loving them, and yeah, he did the whole house, and yeah, we did the trade.
Yeah, good trade. He was so proud of them too. He was like, "Oh, it's Hugo skis," right? He was so pumped. It's pretty sweet that you've got that, like, that influence where people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna ski on. These are Hugo skis. You know what these have done? These are seen." I always think of it kind of like a guitar from like a famous guitarist or a band, or like when a guitar has played some. Like I have a guitar in my room. It hasn't played shit. But when you've got that guitar that's played some music, it's played been played by someone who really knows what they're doing and has made some amazing sound. I kind of maybe the same sort of thing with skis, right? Like you can have
maybe the skis that I had were a bit stiffer. They had a little something to them to make them stiffer.
you add an extra layer in the process.
Extra layer. So I think Toby liked it that they were stiff and they were good.
The Hugo Specials.
There you go, special.
The Hugo Specials. All right, so you injured yourself. You come back. You do a few more years of filming. When did you start? When did you just get back in with the Freeride World Tour? Because you were a judge for a long time. How did that come about?
Just start judging for fun. Jim Jack, asked me if I wanted to judge the Revelstoke comp, and then said yes. It was back then. It was the old style judging with the numbers.
Explain.
And then, judging criteria 1 to 10, 5 category. That's how I start judging.
Right.
And then Freeride World Tour was using more like a thermometer. You start at 50. Everybody starts at 50, and then anything good you do, it goes up. Anything bad you do, it goes down.
Right, which is kind of the current system. Everyone has a starting point.
Yeah.
And then you get a certain amount of kind of you mentally add a certain amount of points for a grab or an air or a spin or a backflip or whatever. But then if there's a hand that goes down or a crash, you lose points for all of those bits and pieces.
So it makes it a lot easier to judge because you can kind of have a rough idea of what's the guy's at.
So you like that the current version better?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's like 100 times easier to judge, and it's more accurate as well
Right.
because you take note. So as that number goes up and down, you have that rough number, and then you have notes to compare that rough number to. Roughly, okay, he's around that range with this other guy. You read the notes of the guy above, the guy below, and you know exactly what they've done. Even if you don't remember, you have the notes.
Right.
Which is the number. There's no way you can remember exactly what they've done wrong or good.
No. Well, some people have unreal memories. Derek Foose has an unreal memory for that kind of stuff. Like
obviously, you have to know.
Right.
As the guy comes down, you usually know, but the note helps. Humans are humans. We make mistakes, so
right.
It's good. That system works.
Right. So how long did you do that for?
I did that for 6 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
Why did you decide to call it?
Kids. My
kids.
My kids, they're getting older. When they're very young, it didn't matter so much. It was nice to travel still and, ski. I started doing that to ski.
Right. It's kind of like the extension of the career, right? It's like
Yeah, I was like semi-retired and I could ski without stress.
You're right. Get paid for it. Still go to Europe. Still
Yeah.
go to, wherever, Alaska,
Yeah, I
wherever it
still
was.
had sponsored, and they liked that me doing that. I was kind of keep me around and in the scene, and yeah, it was a perfect gig for me.
Was there a moment where you were like, all right, that's it. I think I have to hang up my skis, like professionally, as like a job,
Yeah,
right? It doesn't.
my wife got pregnant, my first kid,
Mhm.
and I carry on after that. And then when she got pregnant, my second kid, you know, I wasn't making a whole lot of money with skiing, and that put some stress into me for sure, and didn't have as much fun up there doing gnarly things. I was like,
Getting a
all
little
of a sudden I was
older.
like, yeah, getting older,
A little more wise,
had to work in the summer.
right?
I could ski and have fun all winter getting paid, but I still had to work a little bit in the summer. So for that reason I was like, you know what, this is not worth it. I like to ski more than be a pro skier, always been,
Right.
and I'm glad I did that, because all of a sudden I was more fired up to ski after that. Skiing for fun is way more fun than skiing for a job.
Yeah, you're losing your love for it.
Yeah, it's always stressful. You don't ski as much as you want to. Every nice day you have to film or shoot, and you're kind of missing out on the day, really.
Mm-hmm.
If you really, really like skiing, well, maybe being a pro skier is not the thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it got me to nice places.
Right.
I would never, you know, I would do it all over again.
Right.
But, with having kids and all that and been doing it for so many years, I was kind of happy to move on and ski for fun.
Yeah, now it's time. It's like there's a few that I think of often that have just decided like I'm good. Like
Yeah.
yourself, Treadway,
Yeah.
I don't need to do this anymore for a job. A lot of guys will hold on, as long as they can. Some will transition to something within the ski industry, whether it's a marketing job or a job with a company that they've been with for a long time, or they'll move into the guiding kind of aspect of it. But not too often do people just stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun life. It's hard to give that up. But my kids were more important than that. And the stress, the feeling that I had at the top of something gnarly wasn't the same.
Right.
I wasn't enjoying myself doing
Right.
it as much.
Right. Is it just like a mental confidence thing, or is it just more of like an awareness of the consequences? Or like maybe you're just more just more aware of like what could go wrong, but maybe there's a higher cost for it now too. Like you've got a kid and
Yeah, exactly. Higher cost. I think I've always been aware. I've always been a cautious guy with my skiing. Always made sure, I was doing the right thing. But having kids, and having a lot of people passing away beside me, like, I would have a wall with 100 people. I could say 20 be gone today. So, when you're around that world for so long and you see people disappear every year and you have kids,
that's pretty similar to what I had a conversation with Dan once, and this is even before sadly his brother passed.
Yeah.
But we had a similar conversation where it's like, you get to that age where it's like, yeah, is it worth it? Like,
Totally.
Like, did that have was that a conscious effect on you? Because there's a lot of guys that you skied with, you're friends with, that aren't here today.
Mm-hmm. Not having kids, I probably would carry on.
Right.
But with that in my mind and having kids, it was a clear decision. It was like, okay, this is I'm done.
I'm over it. Peace out, skiing.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good transition, because now with your kids, they're both pretty good athletes in their own right. The good genes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of thing, right? But they're not so much skiers as they are bikers.
Yeah, I'm very glad they like the sports that I do. My young one likes skiing more than biking. My old one likes biking more than skiing.
Right.
But they both enjoy both sports, and I told them, you're never gonna have to choose. You're gonna get to do both forever. So lucky for me, they like both.
Unlucky for your bank account.
Yeah.
It's because biking is expensive.
Yeah.
Well, way more expensive. Skiing is expensive, but biking is crazy expensive.
Definitely. I mean, Volco's been helping us out with gear. All the kids are taken care of. So
did some of that come from some past relationships that you may have had? Do you think helped a little bit, or like, oh, this is Hugo Harrisson, these are his kids. Okay, here we go. Right.
Those are a connection that I made judging the World Tour.
Right.
I was out a sponsor at some point and met Jean-Claude. He's now a good friend that I met.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, he was like, okay, if you come with us, it has to be for the long run. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. This is what I want. I want a sponsor that will just give me gear and hook me up forever.
Do you know what? That's amazing.
That's kind of how it went, and he hooks up my wife and hooks up my kids.
Little legacy sponsor.
Yeah.
I had that conversation with Macintosh when he was here last time. It's like, hey, look, like I'm getting to a point where I'm not going to be given contracts for money anymore. But I just want to make sure that I'm taken care of. My kids are taken care of. We got skis. I got, I don't need any of that stuff. I don't need you to pay me anymore, but I don't want to buy skis.
For me, it was very important. I love skiing. It's my passion still now today, as much as biking with my kids. But it was awesome. He was nice to us, and yeah. That's
awesome. And your kids now are almost old enough to be able, well, the oldest maybe, he's a Harrison, but are almost old enough now for you to be able to go and ski big lines and be able to show them cool things and be able to like kind of get back to where you like what you want to do. Like if you're going skiing with like PY or Robin or something like that, maybe not to that extent yet, but you can get to the point where you can take him into the backcountry. You can take him to the top of a big cliff and be like, hey, Uncle PY hit this. This is a PY gap, or I hit this in this comp, or like this is a zone that I like to go to that's a little sketchy, but I think you're ready for it. Like, does that excite you?
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful as well.
Right?
More for mom than for me, because
just don't
I get to trust them because I'm always with them. But it's super exciting to see them all stoked they get to do that and to share those experiences with them. It's amazing.
Do they know who Dad is?
They know. I mean, it's not like they watch my segment every year.
No,
it's pretty boring for them. They like the new stuff with doing tricks.
Of course. But do they really have like an idea of like who you were and like your influence on the ski industry back then? Do they know that yet?
I'm not sure if they entirely understand, but I think they do. Yeah. They definitely see me judge the World Tour, for years, and so they know I was a pro skier then, and yeah.
That's pretty cool. And they're taking the same path, which is sweet. And then, so do they race biking or race skiing, or are they going into like the free ride, like the Challenger tours or the junior tours?
Yeah, I mean, biking is the big thing for my kids. They've been doing super good. My old one just won the BC Cup this summer.
No way.
His first year racing.
Wow.
So it's exciting. He's been looking forward to that moment for 2 years now, and then finally he turned 13, and then that was his first year racing. So he's the baby of his category, and then crushed it. So he's stoked, and we get help with bikes with Forbidden now.
Oh, nice.
And it's been amazing.
That's
luckily we get help because it's an expensive world.
Yeah, man. Like especially living in the sea to sky, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, biking's not cheap at all.
Just with tires, I ride, they ride. Bike park, we shuttle, we have a side-by-side, so we do a lot of downhilling. So I go through a tire a month and a half, same as my kid. That's 2 tires each a month. Those things are $150 each. So you do the math, that's that's $900 a month just in tires.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
In tires. Jesus.
So helps is key. Without help, it'd be unsustainable. So far, I've been supporting it, but luckily now we get help. Otherwise, I don't think I could carry on much longer doing that.
So when he's old enough, are you going to be putting him to work?
Yeah, already. I try to motivate them to work, But yeah, hopefully they make money soon with biking and they don't have to work at a
There you
grocery
go,
store,
and they
and they
can-
can put 100% of their energy into it.
They can take care of Dad in his old age.
Yeah, as long as they can take care of themselves, I'm well taken care of. I got everything
And
I
then
need.
you-
I got a house.
You can get back to the old traveling around the world, go to events, but you just get to chill out and watch.
That's right.
You can be
It's,
their bike tech.
I'm their biggest fan. It's fun. I travel with them. So far, my old one's been racing, but I've been, like this last summer, we've been in every bike park in BC. So, me and my young one was just ripping around all summer, ripping all the bike park in BC.
While the
So it was
13-year-old's competing, you and the other one are going lapping.
That was my summer.
Dude, you got it dialed in. I like
It
it.
was
I
very
like
fun.
your style. Well, thinking back on your career, are there any moments, when you think back? I'm sure there's so many, but can you think of something right now maybe that might pop into your head of something that you always come back to, like a favorite trip, maybe a favorite place, a favorite partner to ski with?
Yeah, hard to. There's been many good trips. Favorite place. I spent many summer in South America, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
For me, it was a big thing. Every summer I was going there. And when I was going there, it was not to shoot so much. It was more to train and to ski for myself. And for that reason, it became my favorite place. Maybe it was no stress, skiing for fun, made it that much more fun.
Right.
But yeah, that place was unique for me, and yeah, many place I could talk about.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, so I have to ask you this, and we talked about this off air. So there's a poop story.
Yeah.
So you'd think that with all the crazy landings, there may have been an accident here once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that apparently there was. Can you share this story with me?
Yeah, that was in Terrace, BC. I had a pretty good par going with my segment, and then I was on the hunt for a big cliff.
Was it with MSP that year?
I was with MSP.
What film?
What film?
Was it Claim?
Couldn't remember that one.
No.
Maybe Claim. Hitless.
Maybe, yeah. Hit list.
So Terrace, we found that big zone and with a big cliff, and then hawked that big air, and literally on the slow-mo, my head is right between my knee. So I concussed myself, both knees in the face, but they went on each side of my face.
Right.
And then, when I got to the bottom, I was like, unsure, right? And then, I put my hands in there, and for sure,
Fully crapped your pants.
handful full of shit.
Oh, man.
And I stripped down and chucked my underwear. They're probably still there today.
Somewhere on the glacier.
Somewhere on the glacier.
They're going to find them in like 100 years. Be like, whoa.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring them back.
Oh, my God. Because you couldn't get in a helicopter with that. That'd probably stink.
Probably.
So
Mike Douglas said it stunk in the heli. So
you were with Doug. Who else was on that
maybe
trip?
It was residue in my hand, or
It was Douglas, you, and who else was on that trip?
Rory Bushfield, Ingrid, Douglas.
Oh my goodness, guys! Was that like not probably the funniest evening of your lives? Just talking about it and like laughing.
Pretty funny. One of my biggest to flat hair of my life. Not flat, but for how big it is, it was kind of flat. And stumped the crap out of it. And then it was pretty funny at night for sure.
So like you're down at the bottom and you're just kind of dazed because like you...
I was concussed. Like the rest of the day, I knew I had a concussion, and then meddled out. I kept skiing, but not really sending it.
Times are changed, because now no one would let you go back and do another lap.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you feel. I didn't pass out or anything, but I knew I was kind of...
Saw some stars, a little woozy.
Yeah. It hit my knees super hard.
Do you think you had a bunch of accidents like that, or a bunch of concussions? You landed most things, fortunately, but...
Yeah, every single stomp, I think, mini concussion every time,
Really?
For sure, yeah.
Really?
Now that I had a concussion maybe 4 years ago biking, and I had another one maybe 2 years ago. And then it made me realize that now that I know the feeling of having a real one, never had a real one till then.
Right.
but I know for sure I had mini ones here
Right.
and there, just stomping knees in the face. I can't even count how many things like that I had.
Really? Does
Huck
that?
neck, every time you have a huck neck, you have a concussion for sure.
You
So
think?
every skiers out there, when you have a huck neck, take a week, take time to recover.
Really? Do you have any thoughts about or concerns about when you get a little bit older of having that like stuff catch up to you? Like, have you really did much reading or have much info on like CTE, like with like football players and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I compare myself to a hockey player or a boxer, probably, not even close to these guys,
Right.
Like my huck neck was like 4 or 5 times a year,
We're just always, yeah.
So, compared to a boxer that's multiple fight, or a hockey player that's like multiple impact, like game after game after game after game. So I think as a skier, if you're cautious and you're aware of it, let rest do the thing in between, and then you should be fine.
Yeah, right. No long-term effects that you can sell?
No, I don't think so. Maybe other people think so, but I think I have all my head, yeah.
With skiing now, just gonna keep going, doing what you do. Maybe ski out with the kids a little bit more. If say they get to a point where they're as good skiing as biking, and they start making the name for themselves, kind of the way that like maybe Logan or Kai, the kids of the former famous pro skiers,
Yeah, no pressure. I don't want to pressure them. I want them to do it because they love it, and that's the way that great things happen for me. So I think if they do that, great things will happen for them.
Right, and then maybe you can get back. Do you ever talk to like Eric or anybody like that? Just be like, hey, what was it like, or what, just to say, hey, when Logan was this age or Dalton was this age, do you get any advice or any info, or like, oh, when did you guys go and ski pencil shoot together or something like that? Plan missions.
Yeah, I never had a chat with him. I think that kind of stuff comes as your kids grow. You know
Right.
their limit, and then you know where to bring them. And
Do you have any like goals or things that you want to do with them, or you're waiting to do when they're getting a little bit older?
not really.
Not really. Just see how it goes. Play
See
it
how
by
it
ear.
goes. Yeah.
Just let them do their thing, and then you're gonna step in and hang out when
Yeah, let
when
the
you get
weather,
a chance.
Let the weather tell us what to do on that day. And luckily, in the sea to sky, that's kind of why they're into biking. Now with lineups in the weekends and all that, when it's not that good condition, we're doing other things. We go bike in Squamish or Vancouver, and then when it's good, we're skiing.
I dig it. Right on, man. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out, Hugo.
Welcome.
I've been wanting to get you on the show for a long time, but like I said, I was waiting for the right moment. Well, you finished work, you came right over here, and you're probably hungry and you got to get back up to Penby, so
Starving.
yeah, I'll let you go, man. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome. Welcome.
You've been listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers. This has been a Redmark Media production.